In Abu Dhabi, the Baraka nuclear power plant serves as the foundation for the UAE's post-oil economy. It is the Arab world's first active facility of its kind, currently supplying up to a quarter of the nation's electricity. But that security was recently tested. According to the UAE's defense ministry, 3 drones entered the country from its western border. One of them struck an electrical generator just outside the nuclear facility's inner perimeter, sparking a fire. Authorities reported no damage to the reactor units and no change in radiation levels, but the tactical breach was significant. International regulators were quick to respond. The International Atomic Energy Agency denounced the incident, with Director General Rafael Grossi stating that any military activity threatening nuclear safety is unacceptable. The incident demonstrated that critical energy infrastructure, once considered a red line, is now within the active strike zone of regional conflicts. While the fire in Abu Dhabi was contained, the geographic risk of such an attack extends far beyond the Gulf. High-altitude wind currents over the region follow a consistent easterly path from the UAE and Iran, traveling across Afghanistan and Pakistan before settling over the Indian subcontinent. If a future strike were to breach an active reactor core, the resulting radioactive plume would be carried along this transcontinental corridor. For India, the fallout could manifest as radioactive acid rain and agricultural contamination, creating a public health crisis across its most densely populated regions. In this environment, over 1 billion people in South Asia find themselves physically tied to the stability of the Gulf, regardless of their diplomatic standing. Responsibility for these strikes often points toward Iran-backed proxy networks, including groups in Iraq and the Houthi rebels in Yemen, both of which possess long-range drone capabilities. These actions mirror the ongoing tension between the US, Israel, and Iran, where strikes inside Iranian borders are met with retaliatory attacks across the region. Despite the presence of heavy armor and air defense systems, these small, unmanned aircraft are proving difficult to intercept before they reach sensitive economic targets. By targeting energy grids, these groups can inflict significant economic disruption and psychological pressure without engaging in a direct troop-to-troop conflict. Infrastructure has become a tool of leverage used to force international intervention by threatening the stability of critical energy hubs. The current frequency of these attacks coincides with a profound deadlock in diplomatic talks between Washington and Tehran. The American position in these negotiations remains completely hardline. Washington is demanding that Iran limit itself to a single nuclear site and transfer its entire 400-kilogram stockpile of highly enriched uranium to U.S. control. U.S. negotiators are also pushing for a 20-year enrichment freeze, while refusing to discuss reparations for damage sustained during the conflict. Tehran has responded to Washington with its own strict set of conditions, demanding a total end to hostilities across the region and the immediate lifting of the U.S. naval blockade. Crucially, Iran is also calling for the release of billions in frozen assets and international recognition of its sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. The gap between these demands leaves little room for a diplomatic breakthrough, creating a vacuum where further military escalations become increasingly probable. This diplomatic impasse has immediate consequences for the global economy, primarily due to Iran's geographic control over the Strait of Hormuz. Approximately 20% of the world's oil exports move through this single waterway, making it one of the most significant strategic choke points on Earth. As talks stall, the rhetoric is intensifying. While U.S. leadership warns that time is running out for a deal, Iranian officials have promised an unprecedented response to any new strikes on their interests. The target list in this conflict has shifted. Military bases are no longer the primary focus. Instead, the focus is now on the infrastructure that sustains global trade and regional power. This shift puts South Asia in a precarious position. A failure to reach a deal in Washington or Tehran creates a direct environmental risk for the Indian subcontinent. The fire at Baraka was a warning. If future strikes move from electrical generators to live reactor cores, the consequences will no longer be symbolic. Diplomatic borders and enrichment limits are human constructs, but the path of radioactive fallout is dictated by nature. For 1 billion people, the true cost of a failed peace deal could be the very rain that falls on their crops.